Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is late May 2024. We are on Mackinac Island in Michigan, and we're about to take a carriage ride. We're buying our tickets right here, and I wanted to make a quick note before we get going. I'm gonna pretty much let our drivers do all the talking, but and I've got pretty much the complete trip we took, the complete ride we took around part of the island, but the first 12 or 13 minutes of this video, when I was taping, my battery died, and for some reason it corrupted the clip that's 12, 13 minutes long, and it would not let me edit it into my usual editing system, and I kind of had to go and just sort of tape it off the computer screen. So anyway, I hope, so here it is. The first, if you want everything to be perfect, the first 12, 13 minutes of this are going to be not exactly perfect. You'll be able to hear the audio, the picture's good. If you're not a stickler, you'll enjoy this. If you're OCD about everything being perfect, there's a speck of dust you'll see on my lens when the light hits it the right way. And again, the first 13 minutes or so aren't that great. Otherwise, I think it's a pretty good video, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hello everybody, as he said, my name is Sarah and I'll be your driver today. How's everyone doing? Good. Good, I love to hear it. Well, welcome to Mackinac Island. But I get it, you guys don't care about me, you're more interested in the horses out in front. On the left we have White Hawk. Everyone say, hi White Hawk. And to the right we have Marley. Everyone say, hello Marley. These are just two of our Belgian draft horses here on Mackinac Island. You can tell as they're the brown and blonde in color. Our percherons are typically black, white, and gray. Coming up on the left, we have Dallas Market. They're America's oldest grocery store. They've been serving fresh goods since 1884. I love going there after work and getting a bite to eat. There's always a ton of desserts out on display. And oh my gosh, I'm so tempted every single time to buy one. Alright, coming up here to the right, we have Marquette Park. The statue in the center of the park is of Father Marquette, an early French missionary in the 1600s. Here he was working with the Native Americans. He would have lived in what was called a wigwam, which is shown as there's one at the top of the hill. It's like that wooden oval-like structure. They used these as teepees, would have been way too cold. And Marquette Park actually used to be a barnyard for the troops garrisoned at Fort Mackinac. And Fort Mackinac is up at the top of the hill. It will be your last point of interest on this tour. It's actually the oldest fort preserved from that era in the country. Right, as we make this slow little turn over here, to the right you will see the American Fur Company retail store. This is now a memorial for Dr. William Beaumont. So Dr. Beaumont made a ton of discoveries into the digestive processes. A young French fur trader named Alexis St. Martin came into him. He had a gunshot wound in his stomach, which was accidental, and this would normally have been fatal at the time to have a gunshot wound in your stomach. However, Dr. Beaumont was able to heal him enough. It left about a $half-dollar sized hole in his stomach though, but through this hole, Dr. Beaumont was able to he did 250 different experiments, and he would tie food to a string and dip it into the hole in his stomach. So it's kind of gross. I don't know. It's kind of weird though. Interesting though, because he was able to discover that it's actually enzymes that break down food in our body and not muscles. And there is a hospital named in his memorial over in Michigan on the mainland. Coming up on our left is the Veterans War Memorial. It commemorates all those who have served, who live here on the island in the military. War through the War of 1812 through present-day conflict. The names are written on them. Over to the right, we have the United States Post Office. This is actually unique as it's one of the few post offices that do not deliver mail. Residents have to come pick it up. So rain, snow, hail, sleet, they gotta still pick it up. So you might be wondering then why there are numbers on the houses and buildings. This is actually only used for emergency purposes only, so that way they can know where to go. To the right, we have the Stewart House City Museum, and then up next to it is the Community Hall. Here, fur was traded in the 1800s, and in the summer of 1822, $3 million spur were traded here, which would equate to about 80 million today. So, a lot. We come up to it on the right are the courthouse and police station. We have about 6 to 8 police officers on duty during the year, and then we also buff that up in the summer months with more state police officers as it is busier and just to help slow the traffic. However, behind those big bay doors, like Mackinac Island's greatest secret, motorized vehicles. I know, scandal. We use only horses. However, we do need those vehicles to help us during emergencies because I'm sure you would not want the speed of your emergency service to be these two horses. It might be a little slow. I'm not too sure how well that would end. Over to the right, coming up, we have the Benjamin Blacksmith Shop. Here they do not do horses anymore. However, they will do live blacksmithing demonstrations. For some of the drivers, they've even made little cup holders. They fit it to our water bottles, and it can like hook onto the carriage. To the right here, next to that, we have the Agatha and Edward Fiddle Shop. This is actually one of the oldest residents on the island, dating back to 1780. To the left is Cindy's riding stable. You can actually rent a horse, saddle horse, ride it around the island. We have over 80 miles of trails here, and the circumference of the island is 8.2 miles, so plenty to explore. I actually love riding my bike or walking along the island. It's super pretty, and especially if you go farther out, there's less, typically quieter, a little bit less tourism. Most people are here in the, main part. So if you just want a quiet day, enjoy some great views, it's a great place to go. To the right, we have Mackinac Island Medical Center. We have one doctor that resides here year-round. Fun fact, you can actually get free samples from each of the 17 fudge shops on the island, so you might want to know where that is if you do decide to eat the whole pound of fudge. Their hours are only at 9 to 4, though, so please plan your emergencies accordingly. To our left, we see big green buildings are the Twilight and Windsor. There used to be hotels here on Mackinac Island, however the Grand Hotel bought them out and now uses them for employee housing. They're the largest employer on the island with over 600 employees. Typically, they're foreigners or college students like myself. Coming up on the left, that small yellow box is called the Town Crier. It's Mackinac Island's newspaper. They publish once a month in the winter months and once a week in the summer months, as there's typically more happening here during the summer. It's actually one of the cheapest souvenirs you can get here on the island. It only costs $1, so look for a cheap souvenir, you can go there. But however, the one on the bottom of your shoe, guys, that's free, don't worry. Alright, also looking up ahead, you can see the Straits of Mackinac. And so this is why this is a prime location for trading, because people would travel east and west to the Straits, and this is just an ideal central location. We're actually surrounded by Lake Huron, not Lake Michigan. Maybe you thought that because we're in Michigan, but the water is Lake Huron. Right now we are turning right onto Cadet Avenue, but more locally it's called Lilac Lane due to all the lilacs. So you'll notice a lot down here, also just a lot all around the island. To the right is the Chambers Stables. The Chambers family has owned our company for more than 5 generations, and they've been doing tours since before the Civil War. It used to be our taxi horses. However, we did outgrow that, so we moved further up the island, and we will point those out later. There'll be a point on the tour. So now they have the wedding carriages. It's a very popular wedding destination with over 200 weddings each year. Pretty nice location, pretty island, have a wedding. Coming up is the Grand Cottage on the left, that white building with the green on it. This is the home of William Backhouse Astor, who's the son of John Jacob Astor, the fur company. They invested a lot of their money into New York real estate. And the lilac tree in front of the house is actually the oldest lilac tree on the island. Michigan State came and took a core sample and dated it to over 200 years old. So how do we feel about lilac? We love them? Love them, yeah. Love to hear it. Mackinac Island has the most varieties of lilacs, with 68, and there are 18 different hues. So you can see some to your left. I love the smell of them. They're so pretty, and you'll find them all over the island. Coming up on the left is Jack's Livery Stables. You can rent your own carriage to drive. So if you guys want to try my job for a day, feel free to pick one up there. They are smaller. They only hold about 2 to 4 people, and it's only pulled by 1 horse. On the left, we have Mackinac Island Pizza Company and the Gatehouse. House. These are just 2 of the 6 restaurants owned by the Grand Hotel. If you want a bite to eat, feel free to check those out. Also up on the left, you will see those columns, like stone columns, and on top of one of them is a stack of turtles. And you will find a lot of turtle-themed things on this island. Turtle shirts, jewelry, fudge, ice cream, a ton of different knickknacks. And that's because Mackinac actually translates to turtle. And it is actually believed that we are in the back of a great turtle right now. To the right, we have Little Stone Church. This is one of 4 churches on the island. And all of that limestone was quarried right here on the island. The glass depicts the work of early missionaries here on the island. It's covered in plexiglass, as someone decided to build a golf course right next to the church. So, possibly not the best idea. So they cover the windows to protect them, but also this acts as a wind tunnel in the winter, winds reaching 60 miles per hour. So, also just to protect them from the harsh winds in the winter. Over to the left, you will see Mackinac Island Public School, the roof down there, and the playground. At this school, there are about 80 to 100 students, and graduating class sizes range from 2 to 10. This year, there were 9 graduating students, so a pretty large graduating class size. Over to the right, you will, through the trees, you will be able to see a large house. That's actually my house, guys. I love it. I'm pretty impressed with it myself. Nah, I'm just kidding. That's the Michigan Governor's summer residence. It's the honor of every Michigan state governor to stay in that during the summer months. It's actually open to the public in June, July, and August on Wednesdays. You can view like the first floor of it. Over to the right, through the water, you might be able to see the Mackinac Bridge, or the Mighty Mac. It spans 5 miles to connect St. Ignace and Mackinac City. It's actually the largest suspension bridge in the Western Hemisphere. Before, people would have had to take a boat across to get across to the Upper Peninsula. On the left, you will see the tennis courts and the garden of the Grand Hotel. You do have to pay a small fee to get into these, however, the secret garden is so beautiful. I totally recommend you check it out. If you want to swim in the pool, you do have to be staying at the Grand Hotel. Coming up ahead, you will see that statue of a pineapple. It's actually the national sign of hospitality. But now I'm sure you guys are more interested in what's behind that. That is the Grand Hotel with 388 rooms. You could spend a whole year in the Grand Hotel and never stay in the same themed room. So each room has a different theme. Some are based off of the first ladies of the U.S. It actually has the largest covered porch in the world, spanning 660 feet. So the original part of the Grand Hotel actually only had 180 rooms. Can anyone guess how long it took to build that? Actually, it took 93 days. Dang it, I went super fast. The original 180 rooms took 93 days to build. We will come up on it in a minute. Between the 2 balconies, you'll be able to see the theme where they actually added on to the hotel. Also, if you look under the balconies of the Grand Hotel, you will notice that it's blue. This is actually its own special paint color called Grand Hotel Blue. Some people believe that it's blue to help deter birds, as they would think it was the sky and they wouldn't want to build their nest there. However, this isn't really true. It's more just for aesthetic purposes. It looks cool, it's pretty. So as you come up to it, you will see the seam. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's a seam between those 2 balconies, and that's where they expanded on to the Grand Hotel. To our right, back there is the Jockey Club. That is another one of the restaurants in the Grand Hotel. And right here is the pro shop, the golf pro shop. So you can get pants, shirts, socks, anything you might need in case you get a hole-in-one. And then also at the Grand Hotel, there were 2 movies filmed here. Somewhere in Time, featuring breed, and this time her keeps featuring Jimmy Durante and Esther Williams, who's an Olympic swimmer. Pretty cool. Also, to your right, you will notice there are a ton of bicycles, and that is actually very unique, as it is one of the only two-tiered bicycle parking lots. That is where the Grand Hotel employees park. Unfortunately, they don't do valet, guys. I've tried. You're gonna have to park on bikes. Very difficult. I know. Sad times out here.
All right, so yeah, we took a little pause here for a moment. I enjoyed our young driver. She was great. She was funny. She was witty. Anyway, so yeah, you see an improvement in the video, and here in just a moment we'll get going, and it'll be the video's gonna be crisper. Yay! So anyway, I hope you like that. I'll pretty much let our drivers do the talking, but I might pop in here and there with something to say.
The first 9 out here, and then the back 9 are actually in the woods, so cleverly called the woods. It's actually the only golf course where you have to take a horse-drawn carriage to get to the back 9. Golf carts are allowed on the actual golf course, but not on the road, as it will smooth the horses. So you do have to take the carriage ride over to the back 9. Over to your left, you will see that little road driveway type thing, and that is actually where the old Grand Hotel stables used to be. They were doing minor reconstructions, and they realized the foundation wasn't that stable, so they decided to build a new, more stable stable up the hill, and we will be able to see that in 1 second past these trees off in the distance, the green and red building. Right, so yeah, it's the green and red building over there. That is the Grand Hotel Stables, actually one of the only free things on this island. Feel free to go in, look around. They have a ton of antique carriages. Our owner, Bill Chambers, had an antique, he just collected carriages, so he put them all in there. They're all antiques. We actually could hook a horse up to it and drive it, but we want to preserve them, so that's why they are kept in there. But under each carriage, there's information about it, and with your phone, you could scan a QR code and watch a video about each one. It's pretty cool. You also might be able to see some of the Grand Hotel's horses back in there. There is obviously a little rope, so you can't go all the way back, but you should be able to see a couple of them. And also, as you may have noticed, we are taking some breaks up this hill. This is because the horses can get winded just like you or I. This is no struggle for them. They can absolutely pull the weight, but they can carry weights, pull weights up to 3 to 5 times their weight, and they each weigh 1,600 to 2,200 pounds. So again, absolutely no struggle for them, but they can get winded, so we give them little breaks. It's shown in their their looks, their demeanor, that they're absolutely well cared for. They are the heart of our business. We love them. We take care of heavy car care, and each day they have an unlimited hay buffet, 3 gallons of oats, a salt lick in their stalls. They have a little water bowl which they can touch their nose and then put the water out, which I thought was cool.
Two other employees
To the left, you can see one of the drive yourself carriages. So like I said, it fits 2 to 4 people, and it's pulled by 1 horse. So that's where you can get at Jack's Livery Stables. If you guys wanted to try my job out for the day, rent one of those. Also, as a driver, we are also responsible for all of our horses. So each morning we go in and we brush our horses. We give them a little bath just from their legs. They get a head-to-toe bath at night. So they're heavily well cared for. We love feeding them apples, sometimes the apples from our lunches, or we'll go to the store and buy them some. And just the way to the horses' hearts are through food. So it's kind of a way of conning them into loving us. Although they do just love us in general, but. As we come up this hill, you will realize, you will see to the right, there are our barns. And the first one is this big black building. Again, when we get to the top of the hill, you'll be able to see it. Alright, so this first one, the black barn, is called our taxi barn, where all our taxi horses are kept. These horses are typically smaller, as they are a cross between a standard bred and a Belgian. This helps them to be able to trot, and they're quicker. We do not trot our Belgians. We do not trot the Belgians, as it is harsher on their knees, so that's why you typically see bigger Belgian horses. They're just walking, and so that's why those are standardbred crossed with the Belgian, so that way they can trot. They're quicker on their feet, better for taxi services. And then also to the right, it's kind of hidden behind the trees, but see it in 1 second. Charlie.
Yeah. Okay, so
Alright, sorry about that. So to the right of in the barn you will see a veterinarian's office. We have 3 vets. Does anyone remember how many doctors we have? 1. Exactly. You see where our priorities lie. Horses are the stars of the show here. Also to the right, it might be hard to see through the trees, but as we pull up you will be able to see it. The green and white carriages, those are our 3-horse carriages. They hold 35 people. They're specially made for us by Jayco down in Indiana. There were 20 made. We have 19. One of them was privately sold. So if you guys ever see that on like Facebook Marketplace, just let us know. Happy to have it. Alright, and then also next to the barn, there's antique firefighting equipment. It is made of wood though, so I don't know if any of you see the problem, wood and fire. So the antique equipment is right next to the barn. You will be able to see that as we pass by.
You want to say bye?
Alright, so this first barn is our taxi barn, like I had mentioned. Feel free to try to look inside the windows as we pass by. You might be able to see some of the horses. Obviously some of them are hard at work, so yeah, might be able to see some of them. And then that middle barn, we call it middle barn, that houses our 3-horse carriage horses. They're typically a little bit bigger. And then right there is where that big wagon type thing is where we put all the manure. So if you guys are looking for a warm place to stay tonight, that'll be nice and there, right there for you. Right, and then as we come up on it, you see the big green roof barn all the way out there. So we call that big barn, and that's where these 2 beauties would stay. Houses all of our 2-horse carriage horses. Sometimes as we pass by here, you might see them like turn their heads because sometimes they're like, oh, that's home, and they'll try to like go that way. Some little thing if you ever observe that. Also, all the way out there, you'll see the black anvil. That is our farrier, and they make all the horseshoes. Typically, horseshoes will last from 4 to 6 weeks. And in the winter, they have like little spikes on them, so that way they can like grip the ice. We do have a 365-day, 7-day a week, 24-hour on-call taxi service, and so we do keep like 18 horses, like 9 teams here to help run the taxis in the winter, and then all the other horses go up to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, and we'll get back to that in a second. Over there to the right, you can see our wash bin. That is where we wash off the horses every morning and night. So in the morning, wash their legs. At night, we wash like full body, head to toe. They get a little scrub it up dub, make sure they're nice and clean, and then we take all their equipment off. So yeah, in the winter they get sent to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Here they can just relax. It's like a little vacation for them. Basically they just get fat, sleep, poop. Pretty nice for them. And so during the day we typically have like 2 teams that we work with. 2 teams that we work with, and they get switched off like about halfway through the day at like noon. About noon. And they do get every other day off, so like a full 24 hours off every other day for their little rest. Over there you will see the road that leads all the way up that hill. That leads to Harrisonville, and that is where the island's residents live. There are about 500 approximately full-time residents here. They do love the tourism, however they are back there as there are like 600,000 to 1 million tourists each year, so they prefer just to be a little bit quiet so that way they can raise their families. Oh, and also, sorry, and also during the winter there are harsh winds, so that being back there helps protect against the harsh winds. And then coming up, we'll be going up to Surrey Hill. So here, you'll be able to look around, take as much time as you would like before you board a 35-passenger, 3-horse carriage in the back of the building. So here you can look at like Forge of Memory, where they're like, sometimes we'll give them a horseshoe and they'll make a nice ride. There's also the Grand Hotel, so again, feel free to look around that. We also do have a horseshoe right now here, if anyone would like to pass around, you guys can look at it. You can see how large the horses' hubs really are. Do you guys have any questions?
Gotta have some questions. Oh, on the horseshoe? Yeah. It's for help getting grip on the hill.
The little,
yeah, the little
middle piece?
Oh, the middle piece? Oh, that's called a toe clip. It keeps it on the front of the hoof so it doesn't slide back.
That's huge.
We'll get over here. They have to.
Bubba, you want to say bye?
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we are headed up to Surrey Hill, where you guys will get off. You'll board a 3-horse carriage in the back. So yeah, you guys can spend as much time as you'd like. You can look at Forge of Memory. If you guys have combination tickets to the Butterfly Conservatory,
Yes.
you can visit
Mom,
that.
pension
It's
that
right
back
in
up.
between. It's a yellow building. They're like kind of, they're like glass windows. And then also all the way to the right, the green and red building, the Grand Hotel Stables. Again, that is free. Feel free to look at all the antique carriages. Fun times back there. So as we do approach here, they will be taking a photo of you guys. So stay on the carriage and then we'll pull forward to stairs and they'll like help you guys get off. So again, we'll take a photo and then drive forward and then you get off. If you guys enjoyed your trip, my name is Sarah. If not, my name is Caitlin. I didn't do it, guys. Horses, well, is never expected. They always appreciate your gratitude. They'll take it in forms of apples and carrots or green paper bills. However, they forgot their pants today, so I can hold it in my pockets today and hold it on for them. Again, you will get your picture taken, and then we'll pull around and they will help you guys get out at the stairs.
Forge Memory. And I'm generally not a fan of the whole we're gonna take a picture of you and try to sell it to you later, but at least they didn't try to pull a green screen kind of thing. You know, you can Photoshop yourself anywhere you want. I didn't look at those pictures. They weren't pushing them on people. I don't even know where they were really for sale at. But anyway, I loved our little driver and her commentary. They do the thing where they kind of let you off here. There's some shops. There's some old carriages to look at. Kind of a museum/gift shop place. And they actually had a pretty cool selection of stuff. We did buy some nice gifts while we were in here, and I enjoyed looking at the old carriages. Again, this is gonna be a long video. If you hang on with me through this, God bless you and thank you. Yeah, I think I'm looking at about an hour and a half on this video, but this definitely was a highlight on our trip. I think it was a little over $40 each to do this, and I didn't mind. I thought if you do touristy stuff, I thought it was actually a good value. I mean, they really entertained us and got us around the island, told us about stuff, and I enjoyed it a lot. I want to say for somewhere between $60 and $70, you could also that would also include a ticket to the fort and a ticket to the Butterfly Garden and one other attraction. That wasn't a bad deal either. In fact, we were going to buy that, but it was kind of later in the day, and they said we wouldn't. I think it's you kind of have to do all that in the same day, the way they've worked it out. So we weren't able to do that, but that's okay. Still, we thought this was a good value. We enjoyed it a lot, and if I go back to Mackinac Island, well, I'd probably go to the fort again. I would not pay the $12 to go back to the Grand Hotel, but I would definitely do this again. This was fun, and we liked it. We liked it a ton. We're gonna have a different driver, and they're gonna have a separate narrator with them. He's gonna do a great job, and yeah, he was pretty funny too. So check that out. It was a good look at the carriages they're using. They kind of do a different carriage on the second part of the tour, so that was kind of fun. And what about those massive horseshoes? I know here in Kentucky, I've actually got a couple of souvenir horseshoes from some Keeneland race horses. They're not that big. Those working horses there on Mackinac Island are giants, and those horseshoes were just massive. Anyway, we're about to get on and go on the rest of our trip. So check it out.
Yeah, well, the more different ones, how many different ones did you listen to today? Oh, wow, this is 6.
Bob is going to be your narrator.
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Going to be your driver. Say hi to both.
Hi. We're out of here. There you go. That's good that you got to go on so many. They're all different. Hi, Morgan. All right, folks, let's say hello to the horses a minute. That horse over there on the left is Martha. Can we say hi, Martha? Hi. And the one in the middle is AJ. Can we say hi, AJ? Hi, AJ. And this one over here on the right is Chase. Can we say hi, Chase? Hi, Chase. All right. Well, this is the second half of your tour. It's much different than the first. We're going to be riding through Mackinac Island State Park, and I'm going to do my absolute best to share a wealth of information about the island with you while we do that. So are you guys ready? Yeah. All right, let's go. The island itself is 2,400 acres. All right. It's 8 miles in circumference. Of that 2,400 acres, 80% of it is a state park, okay? So the majority of this island is a state park. But it wasn't always a state park. Actually, before it was a state park, it was a national park. It was the second national park in the United States, second to Yellowstone, okay? It was a national park for 20 years, okay? From 1875 to 1895, the federal government turned it over to the state of Michigan when the Department of the Military decided to withdraw the troops from the fort. But during the national park days, it was the soldiers that were the caretakers of the island, and they were responsible for putting about 60 miles of roads and trails all throughout this park. As a state park, it's Michigan's first state park. It's the only state park that doesn't require an entrance fee, yet you're not allowed to camp in the park. All right? Now, the first people to come to this island were the Native Americans. And it consisted of 5 tribes on the island. Those 5 tribes combined are known as the Anishinaabe Nation. And all those tribes still reside here in northern Michigan. That's the Ojibwas, the Odawas, the Ottawas, the Chippewas, and the Potawatomis. The Potawatomis were farmers. They would raise crops for their subsistence, while the other tribes were semi-nomadic. They would move in clans of about 30 families, and the clans would always be identified by the eldest male within the clan. When the young ladies typically got of age to marry, they marry outside of the family. But it was in 1780 when the British came here. They were over in Mackinac fort over there in Mackinac City. They didn't think it was fortified enough, so they wanted to come here and build a fort. They came here and bought the island from the Chippewas for 500 pounds at that time. They started construction in 1780, and they were able to complete it in 1781. Now, when they decided to come here, the members of St. Anne's Parish decided to come along also. And St. Anne's Parish has some of the oldest historical records dating back into the 1600s. But when those members decided to come, resources were so scarce that they actually dismantled their houses over there on the mainland, brought the pieces across the ice, and rebuilt or reconstructed their homes over here down by the harbor. So first it was the Native Americans to come here, then it was the fur traders. After the fur traders, there was a time of fishing here on the island, and after that it was tourism, and tourism started kicking off about 1897. That's when the big boats started bringing them here. And when they would come and step off the boat down there in the harbor, the first thing they would see was St. Anne's Cemetery. Well, the leaders of the community didn't think that was such a hot idea to promote tourism. So what they did was they actually moved St. Anne's up to here. They dug up or disinterred the graves downtown and transported them up here and reburied them. So they do have walking tours at night that relate to some of the ghost stories due to the relocation of the cemetery, if you're interested. But the oldest grave is right there in front of AJ, the center horse out there. It's a green plaque with gold lettering. That grave is dated 1833. That's the grave of Mary Biddle. Mary Biddle was the daughter of Agatha and Edward Biddle. Agatha was an Ojibwa Indian. She was also a chief of that tribe here on the island. And Edward was a British fur trader. They had 7 children, and they were very instrumental in helping people get established here on the island back during that time. Now, Mary was 8 years old. She lost her way on the ice bridge, fell through the ice. She didn't drown, but she died shortly thereafter of pneumonia. Now, today, though, there's about 500 people that live on this island all year round. And of that 500, about 200 of them are islanders. An islander is anyone, they say, that has been born on the island and lives a majority of their life on the island. And those folks really look forward to the ice bridge. What the ice bridge is when the ice is thick enough that they can travel by snowmobile from the island over to St. Ignace, all right? This year, the ice never formed. The ferries ran all year round, but lots of times there'll be too much ice for the ferries to run, not enough ice for the snowmobiles to run, and then they have to resort to just air traffic or air taxis to get on and off the island. But if the ice bridge forms, what they do is they save their Christmas trees from December. They go out there and put the Christmas trees out on the ice to mark the passage of safe travel. And if it does form, it's usually around January and February. They have about a 2-month window that they can live like most of us, come and go from their homes anytime they please, all right? They can ride their snowmobiles anywhere on the island from November to April, okay, snow permitting. So they really look forward to that time of year when they have the greatest degree of freedom. Now, to be buried in one of these cemeteries, remember, well, you have to have a residence here. And remember now, all those cottages that were, not all of them, but the majority of them that were built in the 1800s, they don't own the land that they're built on. They have to lease that land from the state park, okay? And that's a stream of revenue for the state park. And I know during the Great Depression here, about 6 homes defaulted on their leases. The state park acquired them, tried to sell them, but they didn't get much for them because nobody really had any money at that time. Over here on your left is a Protestant cemetery. We don't usually divide our cemeteries by denominations or faith, but the oldest grave here is another green plaque with gold lettering out there. That's the grave of Harriet Mitchell. That's a lady that lived to be 81 years old. So that means she was born in 1750. There's also a governor buried there, G. Menon Williams. He was very helpful in procuring funds for the restoration of the fort during his term. Okay? Now, this other cemetery is a national military cemetery. There's 108 graves there. They only know of 39. So in honor of the fallen soldiers, they fly the flag at half-staff and honor them. Now this is one of 5 national military cemeteries that fly their flag that way. Does anybody know of any of the others? Nada? Okay, Arlington would be one, all right. Pearl Harbor would be another. Gettysburg is a third. Normandy is a fourth. And then Mackinac Island. Those would be the only 5 national military cemeteries that fly their flag 365 days a year like that. Now, in 1763 was the French and Indian War. And during that time, the British were over in Fort Michilimackinac. The Indians were closely allied or good buddies with the French, all right? Well, this was important to the natives and rather still is today, but they were able to defeat King George's army at that time when it was the largest and strongest in the world. The way the natives went about it was, this is over on the mainland now, they played a game similar to lacrosse right outside of Fort Michilimackinac. Well, they acted like they mistakenly threw the ball into the fort. Well, the British got all uptight about that. They did it a second or third time. By the third time, the British had relaxed, dropped their guard. That's when the natives surprise attacked them and defeated them and had their victory over King George's army. But during this time, there was a native individual by the name of Wawatam. Well, Wawatam had developed a close friendship with a British man by the name of Alexander Henry. Wawatam had knowledge of that forthcoming conflict over there, and he didn't want his newfound friend to be caught up in the middle of it, so he brought him over here to the island to hide him, okay? And he brought Alexander here at night, and he put Alexander up here in this cave on the left, all right? Alexander thought he was sleeping on sticks and stones, but he was actually sleeping on skulls and bones. Native burial site. And so this is actually the remnants of the cave. They have dynamited the mouth of it closed out of respect for it being a burial site. All right, but the name of that cave is called Skull Cave today. So, in 1776, though, was the Revolutionary War, and even though the Revolutionary War. Even though the Americans won that war, the British still remained over here in Fort Mackinac for 13 years, over a decade. And the reason the British remained there was the U.S. didn't have enough soldiers to send up to this remote fort at that time. Now this is a very strategic area or piece of island to have possession of because it is right here at the Straits. Initially in our continent, the way things developed was by waterways, oceans, lakes, and rivers. It went to primitive roads, then the railroads, and currently we're at interstates and air traffic, the way we do commerce and the way that we travel. But very important island to have possession of. And there was another war here in 1812. Okay, by that time, there were 65 U.S. soldiers in the fort under command, Lieutenant Commander Hanks, all right? Well, over here on the north end of the island, they call it British Landing today, 600 British soldiers showed up. Lieutenant Commander Hanks didn't think he had any alternative but to surrender the fort and the soldiers without a shot being fired. Well, during that war, the Americans would come back 3 times to try to get possession of the island. The first thing they tried was, like the British, an element of surprise. It was no surprise, that didn't work. The next thing they tried was to fire their cannons up at the fort on the bluff, and they couldn't elevate their cannons high enough to get cannon fire up there. And the third thing they tried was a naval blockade to block British ships, and the British ended up capturing 2 of their ships. All right, so all 3 attempts failed, but by 1816, the Americans would win the war, and through the Treaty of Ghent, they were able to regain possession of the island. Now that's Fort Mackinac down there. Can you pull up just a bit, hon? A few steps. And beyond that is Lake Huron. The fort's about 270 feet off the water there. But up here you can't see it. I'll try to give you a view of it later in the tour. But at the highest point on the island is another smaller fort. There you go. And when the British built this fort up there, and they called it Fort George. But when the Americans got back, they renamed it to Fort Holmes in honor of an officer that had fallen in one of the 3 attempts. They call that little fort up there a military redoubt. What you'd have is you'd have soldiers in the fort, and you'd have soldiers camped about the island. If these soldiers out here in the field were attacked in a manner in which they needed to retreat, they'd scurry up to that fort with the highest degree of observation. Okay, yep. And this was the rifle range, go ahead, where the soldiers would come out here and practice their marksmanship a couple times a week. They were using a gun called a Harper's Ferry that was a flintlock, and it's told they could hit targets at 200 yards. Now, this island is very important to the natives. They believe that they were created here. They believe that this is the center of their being. They don't believe that they migrated here from Asia, okay? This is the tallest island around. It juts up out of the water, has a contour somewhat of a turtle. The name Mackinac means great turtle. So when you're about the island, you'll see statues of turtles and stuff. That's what they're referencing, okay? Now, these were woodland Indians as opposed to plains Indians, and they were expert fur trappers, okay? Beaver hats were popular in Europe at the time, and castoreum from the beaver clan was in demand too. But we know that John Jacob Astor had 15 years of prosperity in the fur trade. Prior to that, up here, it was all Canadian dominated. He went to the government, had laws enacted that prevented the Canadians from trading furs here. But John did have a trading post. He would trade with the Indians, guns, knives, hatchets, or whatever. But over time, in a 200-mile radius, all the fur-bearing animals became depleted. At that time, it became what we call forced assimilation, or my way or the highway, and the young children were put in a dormitory here on the island. The young native children had to wear European clothing. They could no longer wear their tribal clothing. They weren't allowed to speak in their native language, okay? I read a letter from a half-breed. He said at that time it was better to be a half-breed because you could live more like an Indian than an Indian could. Now, there is one treaty, though, from 1865 that's still in effect today, and what that affords these Indians in northern Michigan is that they have hunting and fishing rights that the general population doesn't have, okay? Now, what was it? What kind of furs? Well, I'd say anything that was furry. From elk to moose to bear and deer and wolves and bobcats and otter and beaver and mink and raccoons and skunks and muskrats, all those types of furs they would trade. See, they want to trot, don't they? You gotta reel them in. Okay, but there was these other cats, everybody thought they were like rock stars. They'd travel these wide bodies of water up here in the north that are known as the boundary waters, all right? And they would do it in canoes that are 2 to 3 times the size of what you think a canoe is today. And these guys are known as voyagers. And they would trap all winter and come here for the summer to trade their furs, all right? And lots of times on their travels here, they would have to portage. That means they would come to land with their canoes. They'd have to carry their canoes across land, carry their contents across the land to the next body of water to continue their journey here. Well, those big bundles or bales of furs that they would be bringing, they made them weigh exactly 90 pounds. And the reason why is that they wanted to carry them evenly while they walked across land. Well, the fact is even though those guys were rough and tough guys, most of them died of hernias because we did not have the medical knowledge at the time to help them. All right? Well, after fur trading came the fishing industry on the island. What they did there is they fished out of a boat with a sail. That boat was designed here on the island. That design is still known as the Mackinac today. They'd fish with nets. They'd fish for whitefish and lake trout. They'd take all that fish and they'd pack it in barrels and salt it down and ship it out to the big cities like Chicago and Cleveland, all right? During the peak of the season, fishing season here on the island, 300 coopers lived on the island. A cooper is an individual that builds barrels, all right? And they have record of shipping 25,000 barrels of fish off the island a year at that time. Now, what brought that all to a close? Well, boats got faster. Boats could start delivering fresh fish to the cities, all right? And everybody wanted the fresh fish in the cities opposed to the salted or preserved fish. And that pretty much brought that all to a close. After fishing, it's been all you folks ever since. 600,000 to 1 million people come over here to Mackinac Island from May to October every year, all right? Some come to see the horses, others come for history. The rest of you probably come for the fudge, all right? But it's been a good gig for the island. They've been doing it since the early 1900s. Hundreds of thousands of people, or millions by now. Yeah, very good. Now, we have these white flowers that you see blooming here. That's trillium. When they turn pink, they're at the end of their foliage. But we have other flowers that grow in here, like lily of the valley, or lady slippers, or Indian paintbrush. Some of the types of trees that grow in here are red oak and spruce and beech and birch and sugar maple, okay? The Michigan state tree is white pine. They brought 1.5 million board feet across the ice with horses to build the Grand Hotel in 93 days without electricity. That man became very well known to build large construction projects on time or on schedule. Actually, the railroad and steamliners that built this they built 7 grand hotels total around the United States. I don't know all of them. I know one's in Colorado. I know the other one's at the Breakers down in Palm Beach. Okay. A tree here that was important to the soldiers in quarrying limestone out of here to get up to the fort is a tamarack tree, and the reason being the tamarack trees have an oil sap, and that causes that wood to burn much hotter than other woods, all right? So they start tamarack fires on top of the limestone. They get a real heavy bed of coals, and then they would quench or put out those coals with cold lake water. Well, that rapid transition from hot to cold would crack the stone. This bowl-shaped area right there is typical of where they quarried out stone a couple hundred years ago out of here. All right, but by cracking the stone, it made much smaller stone that they could get out of here. And they didn't use horses to get the stone out of here. They used oxen back then when they were doing it. And when you see the fort, you'll see a tremendous amount of stone went into those thick walls up there. This is typical kind of where they quarried out also over there. Now, the way they get their power on the island today is like one huge extension cord under the water from St. Ignace to the island. I was told a number of years back a freighter was coming through, dropped anchor, snagged at one time. They were without power. Fortunately, it was in the summer, but they're without power for a few weeks there. What we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to give you an opportunity to step off the carriage and stretch your legs and go look at Arch Rock. We are scheduled to be here for 7 minutes, okay? We're going to call this Bob's Carriage. I'll appreciate your cooperation with it. I don't want to leave you here. Kind of will mess up your afternoon, but I'm instructed to stay on that schedule. They time me every time we come out here. Everything will be to the left. There's a number of carriages here, so there's a lot of people. You don't want to go up the wooden staircase. That's just to a hiking trail along the ridge. Go further beyond that to the left, and there'll be a viewing platform. Now, people are bunched up there. Skirt around them to the right because they're just waiting to get their picture taken in front of the arch, okay? So we'll stop here for a short time, see how they're in line and stuff. Just go around them and go up to the viewing platform up there, and you'll get a very nice view, okay? But I'll call out to you when there's about 3 minutes left. And
yeah, and we're stopping here briefly at Arch Rock. You see the line of people on the left to get their photos taken with the arch. Then there's people like us kind of going around. And you've got people that were on tours trying to kind of cut and get their picture taken too. I don't think they kind of understood how things worked, but they were redirected. But you could kind of go up here and get kind of a lookout view. As you can see, it was very crowded. A little bit of a mess here, really, but definitely worth checking out just for the heck of it. But yeah, there's just a lot of people trying to get in and see it. But yeah, there's a little bit of a look, and yeah, really the platform here for viewing, the way it's set up. I'm sure when they built this, they had no idea of the kind of crowds that would be showing up in later decades. But it was just kind of chaotic here, and we were hoping to ride our bikes around the island. We were here for 3 days. We were hoping on the third day to ride bikes around the island, and that of course the third day was when it rained like crazy, so we did not get to do that, which gives us an excuse to come back to Mackinac Island on another day. But yeah, I would totally love to do this again, but just certain times of the day, this area is obviously crowded, and I'm sure there's, Tuesdays are probably a good day to come out and check it out. But anyway, yeah, it was crowded. Our carriage driver, they will literally leave some people behind, as you'll see here in a little bit. They asked everybody to be back in 7 minutes, and they waited, and some people did not, just didn't show up, so they went on without them. It was a bit of a hop on, hop off kind of thing, which was nice. But yeah, some tourists were abandoned here, and I was okay with that, because I can't tell you how many times I've been somewhere and a tour guide will say, hey, be back in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then you've got people showing up 20, 25 minutes later, and everybody's waiting for them, and that's pretty rude. But yeah, our tour kind of went on without some people, and it's just the way it happened. A nice look out there at the lake. Yeah, just a nice look all around here.
Yeah, I know. Bob's not on my cake. I don't know where they're at. I don't see him heading this way.
It looks better than it did 10 seconds ago.
I know.
Walking to it a little bit faster.
Yeah, I know it will. I know it will.
Ask names. I like to ask their names. What are their names? They're getting them, they're calling them back. You might be able to get them out.
I don't know their names.
We're asking you.
Ask.
What's their name? All right, folks.
Crazy. What a way to spend your summer, I think.
We got to make sure we tip him.
All right. Well, the way they say that arch got there, it's about 150 feet off the water there. But they say about 1,000 years ago that Lake Huron and Lake Michigan were one lake. They called that one lake Lake Huron. And as Lake Huron was slowly receding in its water level, and the waters were lapping along the shores there at the arch, in the center was a softer rock that was eroded away over a couple hundred years to give you the current formation of the arch. Now, a lot of people ask us about wildlife here on the island. When the ice bridge forms, we'll get a few deer that come over here. We probably have just a small herd, probably no more than a dozen. This tree right here with all those holes in it, they're created by a pileated woodpecker. A lot of people in Michigan know about those. Those are woodpecker that's about a foot tall, looks like woody woodpecker. All right. The round holes are where they're getting insects. Those big slotted holes are, I'm told, is where they live. Now, when you get back downtown and you look out at the lighthouses right to the left, there's an island out there. That's Round Island. That's a Michigan state forest. Nobody lives on that island. Every once in a while we'll get a black bear swim over. Rangers will relocate it. There's just too much fudge and too many people for a black bear on the island. But other than that, we just have small game, squirrels and rabbits and raccoons and birds and things of that nature. Now, what the natives believe about Arch Rock is that their great spirit or their god is known as Gitche Manitou. They believe that Gitche Manitou transcends from the spiritual world every morning at sunrise, passes through that arch to be present amongst their people in the spiritual realm. So that is their belief and or their doctrine, okay? Now, right in the inside of that bend right there, that big tree right there is a tamarack tree. But tamaracks are part of the, it looks like a pine tree, but the tamaracks are unusual in that even though they belong to the evergreen family, they drop their leaves in the winter. In addition to that, they need heat for their seeds to germinate. That's why there's not any more really here on the island because they were harvested by the soldiers and stuff. But now I'm going to talk to you about horses. We have 5 breeds of draft horses in the United States. Around the world, we have many, many more. What breed of draft horse are you most familiar with? Anybody?
Percheron.
Percherons? Belgians? Clydesdales. Yeah, that's good. Usually I get the whole carriage to shout Clydesdale because of the Budweiser beer commercials or whatever. They go around the country with the Clydesdales. But yeah, we have the 2 that we use are Percherons. Those are the black ones right there. They'll be dapple gray, and the dapple gray will turn white as they get older. All right. Or the Belgians are the most popular in the United States. They're going to be the chestnut colored with the blonde manes and tails that you see us driving. All right. Chase over here to the right is like a designer dog, you know, like the Labradoodles and all that they're making now. This is made, Chase is made bred with a painted horse to get that color combination there. Other than Clydesdales, Belgians, and Percherons, we have Shires. Shires are the largest of draft horses. They're usually up in Maine or Vermont more so. And one more is called a Suffolk from England, but there's only a couple hundred of those around. You got to realize 130 years ago there was tons of these animals because there wasn't any cars or tractors, okay? These guys were the tractors out in the fields, and they were the semi-tractor trailers in the cities hauling all the freight back then. But a lot of breeding took place in land-grant colleges and universities because most of the economies were agricultural. When you talk about breeding horses, we classify them as cold-blooded, warm-blooded, or hot-blooded. Draft horses are cold-blooded horses. What we mean by that is they've been intentionally bred to be very docile. They also call these guys gentle giants, all right? Why? Because they're so big they can hurt you, or they're around big heavy loads and dangerous agricultural equipment. Hot blood is like an Arabian thoroughbred quarter horse. To get a warm blood, you breed a cold blood with a hot blood, it'll produce a warm blood, okay? Now, the way you think we might put these guys together, you might think we put them together based on height, but really what we're trying to do is we're trying to match their natural stride, the amount of distance that they cover when they walk. Think of you like walking with someone with short legs or long legs. It's hard to keep up with one another. You follow me there? So that's what we're trying to do. So it's more about their legs than it is how tall they are. It just kind of works out that way. Well, during the peak of the season, we'll have about 500 horses here on the island. Of that 500, about 90% of those horses are owned by the Chambers family. They're a 5-generation family here on the island. They've been in the livery business since 1860 on the island. To give you an idea of what it takes to manage those horses are wearing shoes on their feet because they're working on asphalt. Well, those shoes only last 6 to 7 weeks at a time. 500 horses, that's 2,000 feet you're looking at on a 6 to 7 week cycle. We have 4 to 5 farriers. A farrier is the name of an individual that cares for horses' feet here on staff to take care of it. Another thing is their bodies are all different, okay? So that harness you see on them that has the buckles and all the adjustments and so forth, that all has to be fitted specifically to the horse. Think of it this way, it's like you wearing too tight of clothes or too loose of a clothes. What it causes, it runs the risk of rubbing sores on the horse if it doesn't fit correctly, okay? Or making it difficult for the horse to work. So the whole point being there is 500 horses in the barn, we have 500 sets of harnesses, and we have to keep track of what harness goes on which horse, okay? Another thing is they all have different diets, just like us. You might have a horse that's a hard keeper, meaning it's difficult for them to keep weight on when they're working every day. So you got to feed them higher protein hay or other supplements to keep them healthy. And on the other end of the spectrum, you might have a horse where all they got to do is look at a bale of hay and they're going to get fat on you. All right? And draft horses are good about that. They lean more towards getting too fat too easy. All right? So anyhow, those are just some of the things that we have to take care of with these horses. Now these horses usually during the peak of the season will work half a day. The black horses get hotter than the other horses just because of their color. But they'll work half a day and then they'll have 24 hours off and then work another half a day at that time. Okay? We don't breed our horses. We buy all of our horses. We only have a few mares. Most of our horses are gelding. That's a castrated stallion. They are easier to work with. They keep their mind on their work a lot better than the other two. All right? Now, when they're done for the summer here, they go to northern Michigan for the winter out to pasture. A horse can live in temperatures comfortably down to negative 40 degrees. Their hair grows about 3 inches long. They have another undercoat in there that acts like a blanket of insulation. All right? Now, unless you're keeping a horse indoors all the time in the winter or shaving their hair, you don't want to blanket a horse because all you're doing is matting their hair down and you're taking away from the insulation qualities of their coat. All right? So, I'll tell you one other thing. A mare is a female horse. When a mare is pregnant, we say that mare is in foal. Well, when she delivers that foal, it's going to be a colt or a filly. Colt being a boy, filly being a girl. A good horse person can look at that newborn horse and pretty much tell you what it's going to be as an adult. And the reason being is if you ever seen a baby horse or a young horse, it's got real long gangly legs and it's difficult for them at first to use those legs. But a horse's legs don't grow any more than 1 or 2 inches the rest of their life. They've got all the legs they're going to have. So what you do is you look at the bottom of the belly of the newborn in contrast to the mare. If it's higher, you know it's going to be a larger horse. You get better, very accurate at estimating that. And if it's lower, it's going to be a smaller horse. All right? So, with all that said, I'm sure you're going to go out and buy a horse tomorrow, right? Or at least a pony. So. Here, when you look in the look out through the state park here in the forest and stuff, you see a lot of deadfall. And the reason being is we have a very shallow topsoil here on the island. That's why the lilacs grow so well that the Europeans brought here. All right? They'll let them fall. They don't clean it up. They let it decompose or rot. It puts the necessary nutrients back in the soil for things to grow. All right? If you notice the trees, they grow in clumps. What they're trying to do is wrap their roots around one another, give them a little more stability. They've always been worried about fires here on the island. They say if a fire breaks out, the island will probably burn down in about a day and a half. Back in the old days, they used to keep horse-drawn firefighting equipment stationed around the island. And these roads that we've been riding that the soldiers put in during the National Park days, they act as fire breaks. Today we have motorized fire trucks here on the island. We do have a ladder truck for the taller buildings. That's kind of contrary to what I said, that's a fire pit down there, but what that's doing there is we have a group of Boy Scouts that come for a week at a time and a group of Girl Scouts that come for a week at a time all throughout the summer. They serve as the governor's honor guard by putting on tours on Wednesday mornings of her summer residence. And they also work in the forts and the museums while they're here for the week. This building right here to the right is the Scouts Barracks. That's where they stay. So they have a good time. They grill out a lot, play games and stuff when they're not working. One of our presidents, Gerald Ford, participated in that program as an Eagle Scout. He's the only president while in presidential office to visit Mackinac Island. Up here on the left is going to be the fort. You can see the amount of stone and the thickness of the walls that I was talking about. very well-preserved fort with a number of exhibits and people dressed in period clothing doing demonstrations. All right. Well, that pretty much concludes the second half of the tour. I try to make it interesting and informative. I hope you found it to be some of that. We do accept tips, and if you do choose to tip us, we just want you to know we're thankful and grateful for your generosity. Now, the next question I got to ask, is anybody stopping to go into the fort? Any of you on the carriage stopping to go into the fort? All right, nobody is, so we're going to roll right on by. The next stop that I'm going to make is where you can walk to town in about 5 minutes down a smooth footpath. If you want to be down to town quick, some of you got to meet other people or go to dinner or lunch or whatever, or see other things, that would probably be the stop. If you want to ride carriages all the way to town, just understand that's probably going to be about another 35, 40 minutes to get you back down to town on carriages. Whatever you want to do. If you're going to the Grand Hotel, stay on the carriage. We'll tell you about that in a little bit. But stop. You guys got tickets? Whoa, you got to stop. Yeah, come on. We'll try to get you on. How many are there? 5. Put 5 in one row, another 1 or 2 there, and wherever you can fit on. Okay. All right, so the next stop is going to be your short walk to town. Otherwise, we're going to take you right back up to where you got onto the carriage, and you walk through the building and get on a 2-horse, and the 2-horse will take you to the Grand or back downtown. Okay?
All right, and that was our basically complete carriage ride on Mackinac Island. Well, what'd you think? I enjoyed that quite a bit. That's definitely something that if and when I go back, and we're already talking about going back, but yeah, I would totally do that again. That was fun. That was worth it. We did it later in the day, so I think the drivers were sort of tying up their loose ends for the day. Like I said, they wouldn't sell us the kind of more inclusive ticket that included the fort and a couple of other things to see, because I think you sort of have to see them on the day you're doing the carriage ride. So I kind of assumed that, as people were kind of hopping on and hopping off, they were sort of at the end of their day and trying to wind things up. But yeah, that was a great ride. We enjoyed it. We got to see a lot of things, like that Skull Cave. We got to see a lot of things we wouldn't have seen otherwise on our limited time frame. So that was just a treat. We really enjoyed this. We enjoyed our narrators and just had a good time. And like I believe it was mentioned, to go around the island, it's 8.2 miles. We hoped to ride bikes around the island, and we didn't get around to it. So that's something we'll do another day. We did do quite a bit of walking. We walked from the Grand Hotel over to Mission Point and covered a nice chunk of the island, but still not nearly as much as you could. But yeah, we enjoyed that. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Have you taken this carriage ride? Let me know what you think if you have. Just really enjoyed Mackinac Island and that carriage ride.